Maine, where are you? There you are. Come on up.
You don't need to close the public hearing. You and the applicant. Once you close, the applicant and the board can have discussions
All right,
back.
we're going to discuss, the public hearing part is closed, so we're just going to discuss it.
Oh, of course. And we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Just so the board is aware, if you do have an attorney-client question, we can certainly step outside for that. You do have my memo. Oh, that's his only memo.
Okay.
You do have my memo.
Yep.
I would also note for the record that this property, at least at first blush, I'm not an engineer, but it appears almost that this property can be subdivided, a subdivision.
How many acres is that?
4.5, I believe.
I'm sorry?
4.5, I believe.
4.5, right. So you could,
You could theoretically, at first glance, I am not an engineer, okay?
right.
So you have my memo that I would say that the point that Mr. Frischberg was making was that when there is a question of law, and if he is correct in the statement of the question of law, if there's a vagueness or ambiguity, it is interpreted in favor of the property owner.
Okay.
Right.
That's what he was trying to
No,
say.
I know that, but I wanted to make sure, when you say interpreted in favor of the applicant, I wanted to make sure that the public was aware that
It's right.
That's a legal term that does not mean we give you preference just because you're the applicant.
No, we are,
Which-
or you are a quasi-judicial body that needs to
Right,
rule on
right.
the law as
Right.
you see fit.
Exactly, exactly.
So the question for you, based on the code, is are two buildings permitted? You have my legal memo, you have the applicant's presentation, you do have the public comment. Many of the comments that were brought forth are certainly comments the applicant will have to address, but most of those will be largely before the planning board.
Right.
One of the reasons, again, we suggested the bifurcating process is much of the environmental review that we would want to do for the area variances. This is not a residential, so it would not be a type 2 action under secret. We'd have to do our own review. A lot of that review is going to be done through the planning board, traffic studies, things like that.
Right.
So the applicant will have to do their homework there, and they're prepared for that. So once they've done that, we will have the benefit of that information in evaluating our decisions. And also, as part of the planning board process, the siting of buildings may change, things may change that would alter the application slightly. So this limited question for you is, does your code permit 2 structures on one lot?
Are there variances needed for the building sizes as they are in that plan right there? Are there variances needed as it stands there?
Yeah.
Well,
Can I answer that
Yeah,
question?
yeah.
There are no bulk area variances that are
Okay,
required as
that's
a result of this current layout right here. The only thing that before the board for is whether or not 2 buildings are permitted on one lot at this point right now. We would have a yield variance we might be seeking after this, but that's got nothing to do necessarily with bulk area
Right.
variance.
Right.
The buildings are conforming.
Yes.
The use, we're gonna be back in front of you.
Right.
About. Okay.
Oh, I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of it.
You'll see us again.
How far back do they go, and it's really more planning, but just to the creek? And are you elevating the
Let
property?
me just give you an idea. So
she still has PTSD.
the creek.
I do, I
The
do,
creek is here.
right.
Oh.
The 100-year flood zone is here. The buildings are 300-400 feet away from it, maybe more.
It's not a lot. I do have PTSD from the floods.
Understood.
Yeah.
I remember that time in Washington myself, and it
You know where I live, yes.
So these buildings would be situated outside the 100-year flood zone?
I'm looking for safety for people, that.
For sure, I'm willing to discuss
Yeah,
that. right?
yeah,
So the buildings will be located outside the 100-year flood zone. We will not be placing any fill within that flood
okay, so
zone.
you're not crazy.
If for some reason our engineering plan, as I flesh it out, does require that, we'll compensate. In other words, if we were required to put 100 yards here, we have to take 100 yards out someplace else.
Right,
We have plenty of room to do that.
right.
So we will not impact the flood zone on that.
Some of the public comment that were mentioned before about utilities and things like that, you're not, there's no basement. Is
No,
there, it's on
These
slab?
are slabs on
On
grade.
slab.
They have to be, because otherwise then I'd be excavating
Yes.
into that flood zone,
Right.
and we're not really supposed to.
No, I understand that, I'm just trying to appease the comments,
Sure.
some of the comments that were made. Is there a reason why you're not subdividing the property?
Well, can I,
Yes,
there's lots of engineering reasons why it's not subdividing property, because I'm sure if we went into that process, we'd probably end up coming in with side yard variance requirements, other things that are eliminated when you don't have a line running down the middle of the property. So we might be in here with another handful of variances, which I don't believe are necessary under the code, and why should we go there? But more importantly, Elizabeth was nice enough to quote the provisions relating to the building inspector, and the fact that the code recognizes that where you have a development, where it's essentially, and we do use multiple residential, but essentially a single development with two main buildings on it, that it shouldn't be necessary to see subdivision. Rather, the building inspector, once it's passed by the planning board, is presented with a plot, and if we meet the criteria that's set forth for allowing to have two buildings on one lot, then he will issue a building permit. If we don't meet that criteria, and that's really a ministerial review, so we think we will, but if we don't meet that criteria, then we're back to where we started from. But the point of our whole application here is the first thing that happens is the planning department, planning board has the authority to approve a two-building design. Then, once that two-building design is approved, if it meets the criteria, which is that there'll be common ownership, that its use is a common scheme, that the buildings are interrelated, I might be missing some of them, but as long as all of those are
maintained by
met,
the same
you'll
owner,
approve.
not, yeah.
And if
Well,
you're
they have
messed up,
to,
then
if
like-
they're on the
Right.
same,
No, no, no.
if they're on the same lot, they
No,
have to be.
But comparing it to if it was subdivided,
We
then
get
it
right,
would
we
be,
get
right.
into trouble that way if
So,
there was
so
subdivided
Right.
that is
that would not
a
be a
place,
good
Right.
a step that will cross much farther down the developmental process. And because your ordinance has that provision, I think it makes it clear that from the onset, we ought to be able to be in front of the planning board seeking two buildings on one lot.
Right. The only concern that I have is, and I would like to check it out, how many other parcels along Route 94 have the ability, as far as acreage, where then again, we're going to have more running down 94. Because as was mentioned by one of the people in the audience, you know, traffic is a nightmare, especially during certain times of the day. So when you're talking about 50 some odd people, 3-bedroom homes, it is a concern. And how many more parcels going down
Could allow for that.
could allow for that, and
I
that
haven't
impact?
reviewed that, but I do know that while I was doing the 500-foot, we mistakenly thought we might have to send out notices, which we didn't have to do.
I saw,
So
yeah, I
we-
saw your, I
so
saw
we
your
did.
email.
We did a review of the 500 feet surrounding there.
Right.
And all those parcels are small, so there would have to be someone who was going to go out, and you can't say it can't happen, but it would be unusual, to seek out multiple
Right.
properties.
I just-
And
I'm
then-
just,
I
I
did-
was
I
just
did
curious if
contemplate
you
the
had,
construction
right.
of all the improvements on it, so I don't think that's,
well, I
I did
figured
pull
when you
it-
sent out your 500 letters, that you would kind of have an idea of what, how many, if you sent out a lot, or if you know, yeah.
Just to, this is the tax, just so you know what I'm showing her, it's the tax roll. This is the lot at issue, they
Right.
also own that one, so
Right.
there's not, most of the lots
Most
are
of them are
much
much
smaller.
I had a feeling that that was the case, I
This
just,
is an unusual old lot,
yeah,
so
that
just
was
so you.
Dr. Knipp's, lot, yeah, yeah.
So the impact is not going to be quite as drastic as what we were thinking.
No,
They'd have to acquire, to get this, they'd have to
Right.
acquire several parcels in a row.
4.5 acres on Main Street.
Yeah.
right, right. I figured you would know since you sent out the letters, if you sent out, you know,
Well, just
4, then you'd know that everybody had
right.
For the
6
record-
acres.
for the record, they actually did not, because under your code, which you brought to my attention, I'll explain later.
Oh, for the,
They
I saw the
complied, we had
email,
some discussions back and
Yes.
forth.
We did
Yeah.
comply, because,
You did comply,
trust
for
me,
the
Yes.
I was in
record,
the
you
office
did
when
comply.
people started to start.
He raised a question, I looked it up,
I was
and
in
he
the
was
office
right.
and I saw, yes, I saw that email, and you were absolutely correct, yes, yes. No,
Did I scare you?
My poor office staff was ready to commit mutiny.
No, you'd have to send out 300, no, that was,
Well,
that
no,
was-
it's, if it was in the code,
right,
they would have had to send
I
the
had
three.
yes,
Yeah, like-
no, that's
But it
what I'm
was
saying,
not,
right,
it was not in the code.
right.
It was not
You
in the
saw
code.
that email, yes, we got that email, and yes, I'm glad that you didn't. That would have been astronomically expensive.
Okay.
All right, so,
Ready to take action? It's to be interpretation only, and that's all that it allows them to do is go to the planning
Go back
board.
to the planning board with the interpretation of
Right.
2 buildings versus 1 building.
if that's what our code allows,
So, yeah. Make a motion?
I'll make a motion that,
Hold on.
go ahead.
So,
And if you want an attorney-client consultation, you can step out.
Yes, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
I need a clarification.
Okay. I'm just gonna step out for a brief attorney-client.
Okay,
And
all right, I can say
What?
that. I can, we'll say that.
No. There's fewer of us than there are of.
Everyone else. Field trip. It's a field trip.
So obvious.
you want to make the motion?
All right, so the motion is that we accept the idea that I'm still stuck on the word.
So I'll give you the
We're
I'll
making-
give you the wording and then you can
Okay.
make the motion. The motion is to overturn the determination of the building inspector
Okay,
and
I
that
got
the
you.
Village of Washingtonville zoning code allows for 2 buildings on one lot.
So I propose that we overturn the ruling of the inspector and that the zoning code does allow 2 buildings on one lot.
Second? Jenny seconds. Vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
We really appreciate your time, and I know.
Sorry to shuffle you around.
Sorry, but
We
we,
wanted to get the public hearing part.
right.
Oh, sure.
We
Sure,
figured that it would be more streamlined. Maybe it didn't, but we were trying.
Actually, I'm used to it.
Well, it's actually sort of nice to go to a place in person.
Oh, isn't it? With no masks, I
Yeah,
love it.
it's great.
And
Yeah,
it's nice to see other people.
I know. Thank goodness, right?
Thank you very much.
God willing, I'll
You'll
never have
get
it
an
again.
order in the mail, and how, from a process standpoint, how will that work? Will we get a
I'm
formal
gonna-
order?
I'm gonna type it up, she'll sign it, and then when she does, I'll probably email it to you, but we
Okay,
can
and
also
then
mail it to
Does
you.
the planning board automatically get it, or do we send it to the planning
I will copy Stephanie Tunick on my email,
board? Okay.
all right?
Very good. Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Have a good night.
John, take care.
Alright, we have other housekeeping business, I believe, that we have to deal with.
Yes.
Um,
We have, before you, a series of withdrawal emails, or all emails out.
Yes.
Um, So, there was, and we're gonna do each one separately.
Okay.
Okay, so, as to the 1/20/21 meeting,
I was not at, I couldn't zoom on to one of them, so I believe it was the, how do you?
The ones that I was not part of the board, then I don't vote on.
correct, if you were
Right.
not, if you were not part of the board, you just, I'll note your abstention.
If you were not present or part of the board, you would not vote on that meeting. And I
And you
know
were-
there was one meeting that I couldn't get on Zoom. You did see me with them. You did see me.
Which one do you need?
Oh, no, I have them all. They're underneath my, okay. So do you want to start with the,
The January
we'll start with 120,
21.
12021.
And I apologize as to format, we had to get these done relatively
That's
quickly, so
fine.
my assistant did it as, it's not a,
More than adequate,
it's,
not a problem,
I'll explain more as we go
Yep.
into executive session.
not a problem. So make a motion that we accept the meetings from 1/20/21. Second? Any seconds? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain,
Yeah.
I guess?
We're going back and we're accepting minutes.
Remember I sent out an email with like a ton of documents, those were all the minutes. So after every
Yes,
meeting,
I'm formally requesting that the village board give each one of us a ream of paper every once in a while. Because,
Yeah.
I feel
your pain. moving, well,
okay,
um,
actually,
yes you do,
all right.
because he was,
Okay, all right, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right, yeah,
yeah,
okay, as long as,
okay. So
All
we
right.
have 121.
Okay, so now.
127, we had to make a revision, which I will explain in executive session.
Okay,
But I'm gonna ask that you-
we'll accept it. So I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from
I think the 127 is what you were not at.
no, I was not at, oh yeah,
The
that was,
127,
I think that was the
that was
one.
entirely Zoom.
That was the one.
So
Okay, I
Maureen
thought I
was
marked
absent.
it, so I'm not going to,
So then that one will have
Denny,
to.
you make that.
We'll
and-
have to table because we don't have.
We don't have,
So we'll have to table.
okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, that, I couldn't get on the Zoom that night.
We'll have to table until Steve comes back.
Okay, we'll do that next meeting. All right, so then we go to, make a motion that we accept the minutes from February 3rd, 2021. Your second?
Second.
Yeah. Vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain from
Yep.
that one too.
Right.
I know when to stop your
Oh,
abstentions.
okay.
I know when to stop your abstentions.
All right,
March
now
25th.
go to March 20, no, March 3rd.
Yep.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes from March 3rd, 2021.
Second that.
Denny seconds. Vote?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, make a motion that we accept the minutes from March 25th, 2021. Your second?
I'll second that.
Jim seconds.
Aye.
Vote?
Aye.
Aye. And then we have May 6th. I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes for May 6th, 2021. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Jim seconds. Do we have a vote?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay.
And Steve is absent.
Yeah, I'll note that for the,
Right, okay.
I'll note that for the minutes.
Okay.
Okay. And then lastly, before we go into executive session.
Right.
Okay.
Our meeting schedule,
Yeah.
originally, I believe that we discussed meeting, our meetings would be the first and third Thursdays, of course barring no applicants.
Right.
But the first meeting of the month was for, and applicants would be made aware of this at the time that they present their applications. That would be our work session, discussion, and then decisions would be made on the third Thursday of the month. If anyone has any issues with that, we can change that, that's fine. Obviously, we wouldn't have a meeting if we didn't have anything. But I think that we're going to be getting busier and busier. And I think my personal opinion, and I'm not looking to have another meeting a month for everybody, but a work session is really needed, so we can discuss, and so that applicants can know that we're working as hard as we can to streamline and get their,
I'm flexible.
things through.
It also gives you an opportunity, just like we had when we had my lovely little COVID quarantine, where we had that first Thursday. We made that the regular meeting as a catch-all because
Right.
we had to postpone. So
Right.
it gives you that, let's
Yes.
say you decided you
Yes.
weren't prepared to vote on OC bagels.
Yes.
You could say, you know what,
Right.
we're gonna make the work session a regular meeting, but it allows you to hash everything out. Also, what's on the calendar are what I think, and I'm being very selfish, are submission dates. So we don't get, here's something a week before.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So you have them before you, so for the July meeting, stuff has to be in by next week, June 24th,
Right.
August, July 29th. And this allows, John to get it out to us, lets me look at it. Are
Right.
there any issues? Maybe there's a jurisdictional issue that, hey, and sometimes it's something little where I can say to the applicant, hey, if you get this to us by the work session or by the regular meeting, we can proceed, but if you don't,
Right. Right, they can always tweak it, as long as they
Right.
get it in the 2 weeks before. There could be a slight change here or there, but we've got the main body of the application.
Right.
I agree with that, if everybody else is in favor, and I think Steve would be in favor as well.
All right, so if I can have a motion, let me just get to my next page. Calendar, if I can have a motion to adopt the calendar.
Make a motion to adopt the calendar.
I'll second it.
Have a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And now, if I may, and then if I may have a motion to go into executive session for purposes of discussing litigation, and then unless there are any other non-litigation housekeeping matters, and then
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss the litigation matters.
I second that.
You do.
you may, just for the record and the camera, after executive session, which we do not anticipate any votes, that we will be adjourning, so you can turn off.
Off? Off?
Off, yes.